Can the bug catchers from Pokemon Emerald beat the whole game? Bug catchers are your mono-type trainers that often appear in the early game, usually with the basic first form bug-type Pokemon and with basic movesets. But could I beat Pokemon Emerald using the same movesets and Pokemon that they have? Let's find out! Now how this challenge is going to work is that I'm only going to be allowed to use the same Pokemon and movesets as the bug catchers that I beat, meaning that the challenge is going to start as soon as I encounter the first bug catcher, which in this case is bug catcher Rick on Route 102. He has a team composed of 2 level 4 Wurmples, and unfortunately, since they're level 4, they're missing Poison Sting, meaning that I'm stuck with Tackle and String Shot until I encounter a trainer with a higher level Wurmple. By the way, another rule that I'm going to have is that I won't allow repeats, so I can only use one Wurmple for now. Things change when I reach Petalburg Woods, as I find both Bugcatcher Lyle and Bugcatcher James. Lyle only has level 3 Wurmples, so I don't get anything from him. However, James has 2 level 6 Nincada, and at that level they have Scratch, Harden, and Leech Life. Not amazing, but at least I have a stab move and another Pokemon that I can use. Now, getting those Pokemon is a whole other story since I have to defeat them, something that's not easy with a level 4 Wurmple. So what I did is that I challenged them over and over alongside the other trainers until I was able to defeat them. I will lose money from whiting out, but besides from repels, I don't really need it. Eventually, I was able to beat Lyle at level 6, and with a bit more time, I was able to beat James at level 12 and get an Nincada. The last bug catcher I can fight before Roxanne is Jose, and he has both a level 8 Wurmple and a level 8 Nincada. And while it doesn't give me any new team members, it does give my Wurmple the ability to use Poison Sting. So if I'm lucky, I'll be able to poison 1 or 2 of Roxanne's Pokemon, which might be my best option since not only do I not have any way of doing neutral damage to her besides Leech Life on Nincada, but she also has 3 Pokemon with Rock-type moves to use against me. Now, while planning this challenge, I had the idea of the basic rules. No items in battle or held items unless the trainer class uses them, set mode, and ideally, I was going to do level caps. But with only a Wurmple and a Nincada, that's going to be impossible. Especially since the next bug catcher is going to be only after Norman, meaning that I'll have to fight both Roxanne and Flannery with only a Wurmple and a Nincada. Let's just move on to the Roxanne battle. Now at the level cap of 15, I lost. Like, what did you expect? I obviously lost pretty badly. I could only defeat the first Geodude thanks to Poison from Wurmple and then stolen with Harden from Nincada. After grinding to level 20, I managed to get to Nosepass, but lost again. Maybe this challenge was a mistake. Finally, at level 23, I was able to win. I won't play the whole fight as not only was it boring, but also it was 10 minutes. But as a quick recap, I immediately poisoned the first Geodude and spammed Harden with Nincada until it was at plus 6. Then I KO'd her with both the poison damage and Leech Life while also wasting her first potion. For the second Geodude, I only used Leech Life with Nincada while also wasting her second potion. Finally, for Nosepass, I ran out of Leech Life power points, so it was a long fight of just using Scratch and her using Tackle, just waiting for either of us to faint. And in the end, Nincada was the one who fainted. I sent my Wurmple, dreading to do that whole fight again, but thanks to an early poison from Poison Sting, I was able to secure my first badge. With Roxanne defeated, I can finally continue with the story. So I go rescue Pico, get the Pokénap, avoid the rival, and on the way, I speak to James back on Petalburg Woods and get his number. This is going to be important later. From then, I make my way to Dewford Town and get to the fighting gym. Thankfully, since Broly's Pokemon don't resist normal type moves, this battle goes much smoother than Roxanne. Is what I would say, but thanks to all of them having bulk up to raise both their attack and defense, Machop and Makuhita possibly having guts, meaning that my Poison Sting strategy is useless, and Makuhita having Reversal, a move that increases in power the lower his HP is at, I lost. Thankfully, after giving Steven the letter, the way to Slateport opens up, so I'll come back after fighting the trainers. Okay, after doing that and leveling up to 26, I was surprisingly able to beat him. I did change the strategy a bit, now using Leech Life on Meditite to recover HP since the only attacking move he has is Focus Punch, but it's still surprising how a 2-level difference was enough. And now, the rival. Something that I didn't mention at the beginning is that I chose Trico as my starter, meaning that Mei is going to have a combustion for this fight. When I picked Trico, I was thinking that it was going to make the challenge more fun, but now that I'm here, I realized the mistake that I made. I'll do one last grind to level 30, and if that's not enough, I'm just going to use rare candies. I came back at level 30 and... yeah, that's what I thought. Well, rare candies it is. At level 33, I... won. Yeah, I know, it's kind of anticlimactic, but yeah, I won. And it was mostly thanks to Wingull missing Supersonic twice, which allowed Wurmple to go into the combustion fight with full HP. Then I brought him to low health before fainting. I set Nincada, and after taking an Ember that thankfully didn't crit, I defeated her. Afterwards, Lumber was an easy KO with Leech Life. Well, let's see how I do against Watson. And what I feared was going to happen, happened. Magneton was just way too bulky for me to handle, even after fighting all of the new trainers that are available. I wasn't able to put a dent in Magneton, even though Nincada is immune to electric type moves. At level 40, I got Magneton to the red, but it was only after he missed like 5 moves, so I don't think I'm that close to beating him, especially since he still had a super potion. At level 45, I got him to the red, but still no luck. At level 50, a new issue appeared. Because I was doing too much damage to both Voltorb and Electrike, neither of them made Watson use a potion. So by the time I got Magneton to low HP, he used one to heal. Twice, so I lost again. Okay, this challenge was definitely a mistake. At level 55, Wurmple was strong enough so that he left Electrike on a sliver. Thanks to that, when I reached Magneton, he only had one left. It was still a really close fight, as even though Wurmple had more than half of his HP, he wasn't taking shockwaves that well. In the end, I defeated Magneton with my Nincada at only 13 HP. I thought that I was going to lose against Manectric, but then I remembered that I had Leech Life. So while he could only use Quick Attack to damage Nincada, I finished him off, finally ending this fight. I swear to God, if Flannery is just as hard as this fight, I'm going to lose my mind. Next was the fight against Matzy, but it was a joke. The fact that I didn't even bother to heal before the fight should tell you how easy it was. Moving on. As for Flannery, the combination of Sunny Day plus Overheat is just way too strong for my first form bug types. The worst part of the fight was that I didn't even make it to Torkoal. It was Camerupt who defeated me. I think you know the drill by now. At level 60, I managed to defeat Camerupt by sacrificing Wurmple to get him poisoned. Then Torkoal came out and one-shot Nincada with Overheat. At level 65, she still one-shots. At level 70, I managed to survive an Overheat from Torkoal, but fainted to the second one. At level 75, I somehow got to Torkoal with both Nincada and Wurmple alive, close to full HP, and with no Sunny Day up. However, she immediately went for Sunny Day and one-shot Nincada after getting her to half. I sent Wurmple thinking that I was going to lose again, but she went for both Attract and Body Slam. That means that a Sunny Day boosted Overheat doesn't one-shot Wurmple, making her use other moves. Now, because of the Attract, I miss a couple of turns, putting Wurmple slowly on the range of getting defeated by an Overheat. However, by some miracle, Wurmple manages to crit and finally defeat Torkoal. If Wurmple didn't crit, she would have been in healing range and would have used a Hyper Potion to recover all of her HP. I am so glad that I finished this fight. Let's go beat Norman and get some team upgrades. After not so easily beating Norman, I get the HM for Surf. And now, the whole map opens up. Let's go in order. First, I go to Petalburg Woods and bike around for a while. If you remember, after getting the first patch, I got the number from Bugcatcher James. Now, if I bike around like I'm doing in the same area, he should eventually be available for a rematch with a stronger team. Eventually, I'm able to challenge him, and now he has a team of a single Ninjask that knows Double Team, Fury Cutter, Screech, and Sword Stance. Honestly, not that much of an upgrade in terms of attacking moves from Nincada, but the setup moves are appreciated. However, this also means that because I got my Nincada from James, he obviously evolved it to get Ninjask. So for fairness, I think I'll turn my level 25 Nincada into a level 27 Ninjask. The game would become way too easy with a level 75 Ninjask. So I think this is for the best. I could also keep doing rematches against him since with each rematch he gets stronger, even getting more Pokemon. But for the sake of making the challenge more interesting, I'm going to do rematches only once every batch. Second, by using Surf to progress with the story. If I go to Route 123, there's this trainer by the entrance. Now, he may look like a youngster, but if I talk to him, it turns out he's Bugcatcher Davis, and he has a level 27 Pinsir with Bind, Seismic Toss, Harden, and Revenge. The moves kind of suck, but it's a freaking Pinsir, and the fighting type coverage is appreciated. Third, by moving to Route 119, I can fight 3 different Bugcatchers. First I fight Kent, who only has a level 25 Ninjask, so useless. Second I fight Greg, and this one is much more useful, as he has both a level 25 Volbeat with Moonlight, Quick Attack, Teloglow, and Signal Beam, and a level 25 Illumise with Moonlight, Quick Attack, Wish, and Anchor. Volbeat looks pretty good with one of the best Bug-type attacking moves in recovery, and while Illumise might not look promising since the only attacking move she has is Quick Attack, both Wish and Anchor can be great for supporting the other team members. For the last trainer, there's Dog, and he has a level 28 Nincada and a level 28 Ninjask. And while the Ninjask is once again useless, I can bring back Nincada to the team with the new moveset of Sand Attack, Fury Swipe, Mind Reader, and False Swipe. He will be a lower level than the one I had before, and the moveset is honestly pretty garbage, but it'll at least give me a full team. And that's it! With that, I fought every single Bugcatcher in the game. I know there are the Bug Maniacs, but that's another class with some different Pokemon and movesets. So I might make a video on them in the future. But for now, all that's left is to fight Winona so that I can unlock more rematches against James. So I'm going to fight the trainers to train everyone to the level cap of 33, and then I'll see you again. As a side note, I find it really funny how I'm training the rest of my team by using Wurmple. Like, it's the weakest bug type, but because most of the other movesets suck and Wurmple is a level 75, it's just way easier this way. I tried the Winona fight, but unfortunately, Altaria is just way too strong with Dragon Dance, even with my overleveled Wurmple. However, I don't think I'm that far off, as I did bring her to the range of using a potion. So I think that with a few more levels and a bit of luck, I can win. I come back at level 36 and I have to narrate this whole fight. I start with Nincada against Swablu and I get lucky with my hits of Fury Swipes, as I'm able to defeat her without having to sacrifice him. Next is Tropius, and I only managed to land a 3-hit Fury Swipes before fainting to a Perish Song that was set up by Swablu. I sent Wurmple and this fight took a long time. Poison Sting wasn't doing that much, and even though Tropius got poisoned, she kept using Synthesis to heal and Aerial Ace to do damage, dragging the fight so long that she got Wurmple to half HP. But in the end, she went down. Third on her team is Pelipper, and I decided to swap to Illumise to use a Wish to heal Wurmple. It works without problems, so I swapped back and it was another solo fight of using Poison Sting and her stalling with both Supersonic and Protect. And just like with Tropius, she gets me to half HP before fainting. Next, she sets her Ace Altaria, and I swap to Ninjas while she sets up a Dragon Dance. I'm luckily still faster and manage to land a Screech to reduce her defense as she hits a super effective Aerial Ace. Ninjas manages to survive, and since I'm still faster, I go for another Screech before going down. I send Volbeat, and because of the Dragon Dance, she outspeeds and almost one-shots him. He lives though, and counterattacks with Signal Beam to get her to a third of HP. I then use Quick Attack, but thanks to her Oran Berry, it misses on the KO, so Volbeat faints. Since I know she's going to heal, I send my half HP Wurmple, hoping to do some cheap damage. But Tackle surprisingly does as much damage as Signal Beam, so after getting brought to the red by an Aerial Ace, a second Tackle defeats her. Last is Skarmory, and this one is scary. All of my moves are resisted, so I decide to go for the long run and try to go for String Shot. I miss, I didn't even know you could do that, so Wurmple faints without doing anything to Skarmory. I send Pinsir, and Seismic Toss looks like it does a third. He goes for Sand Attack, and this is when the fight takes an ugly turn, as I miss my next 2 attacks and get brought to extremely low health. I decide to swap to Illumise to both reset the accuracy and set up a Wish to heal Pinsir. And I do get it, but I lose Illumise. It's back to Pinsir, and I need to hope that by setting up a Harden, I'll survive one hit from Skarmory. And with just 3 HP, I managed to survive and get healed back to half HP. This allows Pinsir to hit Seismic Toss twice and defeat known as Skarmory, somehow winning me the fight. With the Seeds patch obtained, that means that I can go fight James again, and he now has a level 29 Dustox with Protect, Moonlight, Psybeam, and Whirlwind. He also levels up his ninjas to 29, but he doesn't get any new moves. Now, with a new Pokemon to add, I could in theory replace Nincada, who isn't doing much, and keep my level 76 Wurmple. But I think he's already done enough for the challenge and deserves a bit of rest. He's done so much throughout this run, and I think it's time for him to leave it to the others to finish the challenge. Next was the Matzy fight, and I'll be honest, after Winona, I was getting a bit overconfident. And then Matzy came and brought me back to reality. His Crobat destroyed my team. He easily two-shotted 4 out of my 5 Pokemon. Yes, 5, I need an HMon for entering the cave, and he also one-shots Dustox. I don't know if leveling up Dustox is going to do it, but I'm going to try after getting my team to 38, which shouldn't take long. After getting everyone up in levels, I managed to defeat Crobat, but only because I managed to make Matzy waste his potions on camera up with Pinsir, and because I didn't hit myself in confusion when using Ninjask. I then fought the rival outside of the mall, but I think I should have done this fight before Matzy. Not only because she was a lower level than him, but also because it was extremely easy. Let's try the Psychic Gym, which I know is going to go poorly. After getting to the level cap of 42, the fight honestly went way better than I had expected. I started with Pinsir and Volbeat against their Sadu and Claydol, and I had to focus on Sadu at the start since Coleman could get out of control easily and Claydol's Earthquake wasn't that much of an issue. On the second turn, I took out the Sadu, but it was at the cost of my Volbeat. So I sent out Ninjask while they sent out Solrock. I started building up power on Ninjask's Fury Cutter, and for some reason they never used Ancient Power with Claydol, even though it does 4 times damage. Eventually, Solrock fainted, so their last Pokemon Lunatone came out. Claydol continued using Earthquake and I got good damage on Lunatone. But finally, all the damage from Earthquake got up to Pinsir, as a Psychic from Lunatone defeated him. I sent Dustox, and while Ninjask knocked out Lunatone, Claydol finally used Ancient Power, leaving Ninjask on the red. Fortunately, Fury Cutter kept hitting and landed the final blow on Titan Lysa's Claydol, finally being able to win a fight at the level cap. With the patch acquired, I can go back to James and challenge him once again. But I just couldn't get the rematch to trigger. I spent literally hours on speed up with no luck. I'm not sure how it works, but I tried biking everywhere to try and get it to trigger. I tried on the left of Mobile, I tried on Petalburg Woods, and I tried north of Petalburg Woods. And I got nothing. I even got a Rhyhorn with Lightning Rod because it said on the wiki that if I used a Pokemon with that ability to lead my party, it would reduce the number of steps that it would take for a rematch to trigger. If someone in the comments can explain to me how it works, I would really appreciate it, because there are different explanations between Reddit and even the wiki itself. Anyways, let's just say that I fought him and that I beat him. What I get from this fight is 3 things. One is a level 31 Surskit having the moveset of Sweet Scent, Water Sports, Bubble Beam, and Agility. The second is Light Screen on Dustox, replacing Protect. And lastly, I get Slash on Ninjask, replacing Double Team. All of these upgrades are great. I was already not using those moves on Dustox and Ninjask, so having both a great support move and finally a way of dealing reliable damage is appreciated. As for Surskit, getting Water-type moves is really nice, as it gives me another way of hitting Ghost types and something to do against both Fire, Rock, and Ground types. It also finally gives me an excuse to use Surskit on Emerald. I've never used one since they're not in the game, so it's going to be a new experience for me. I'll also be replacing Nincada for Surskit since he wasn't doing anything, and any other team member does something useful for the team, either by being an attacker or by being support. This is also going to be the last time that I'm going to fight James, since even though there's one more rematch, I get neither new moves, new Pokemon, nor an evolution for Surskit. So what you're seeing right now is going to be my final team. The double battle against the Magma afterwards was very close. Thankfully, Steven pulled his weight and helped me get rid of one side to turn the fight into a 2v1. It also helped that Steven's Metan got hit by Swagger and never hit himself in confusion. The same couldn't be said about Archie, as the fight was extremely easy in comparison to the previous one. But with that, all that's left is to save the world from complete annihilation to challenge the final gym. I challenged Juan and the fight went, honestly, way better than I expected. Loftis was obviously easy, but she did manage to KO my Dustox. That one was mostly because I was trying to set up a light screen for the next Pokemon. I set Ninjask to finish off Loftis and then Sileo came out. Because I want to use Ninjask for Screech against Kingdra, I swapped to Pinsir and then Sileo got one-shot by Revenge, but not before getting Pinsir to half HP. Third is Whiscash, and I tried doing as much damage as I could, but a confusion from Water Pulse prevented Pinsir from doing much, so he fell. I sent Illumise to try and chip away as much from Whiscash, and he uses Amnesia. And that's when I realized I can use Anchor to trap him into that move, and then take the chance to swap into Ninjask. So, this is the new strategy. Try to set up as many sword stances as I can, and then try to sweep with Slash. I managed to get 2 before I have to defeat Whiscash. The Ace Kingdra is next, but Slash only gets him to half and he started using Double Team. Things could have gotten tricky, but I thankfully land the second one and KO him. Last is Groudon and Slash does 2/3 of his HP, while a non-crit Crab Hammer does the same to me. Since I'm faster, I defeat him, but even if he KO'd Ninjask, I had Volbeat with Signal Beam to defeat him. Now, you might think that the strategy now for every fight is going to be to use Anchor with Illumise and then swap to Ninjask to use Sword Stance and sweep with Slash. But as you saw, not only is Ninjask not that strong, but he's also pretty frail. So it's not a reliable strategy that I can spam for every fight, especially if they have either a Rock, Ghost, or Steel-type Pokemon. The fight against Wally in Victory Road was pretty easy. Pinsir knocked out Altaria, Pinsir knocked out Delcatty, Dustox knocked out Magneton with the help of Light Screen and Moonlight, Volbeat knocked out Gardevoir, and Volbeat knocked out Roselia. Like I said, pretty easy. Finally, it's the Elite Four. I brought everyone to level 58, which is the level cap for Wallace, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. It took me a while to level up everyone, so I really hope it does. Let's see if I can beat the league. First of the Elite Four is Sydney, and yeah, this was an easy sweep. Both Pinsir and Volbeat have super effective moves that destroy his team, so I had no issues during this fight. Second is Phoebe, and the same cannot be said about her. I had to do this super complex strategy just to get rid of her first Dusclops, which involved getting her stuck using Protect with Illumise's Anchor, and then swapping to Surskit to do as much damage as I could with Bubble Beam. On this attempt he used Curse, so I swapped my strategy to now getting Ninjas to land Screech to lower his defense, and then getting Volbeat on the field to KO him with Signal Beam. But then the second Dusclops came in, and I did my best to defeat him, but one by one my team members fell. Eventually, both Dustox and Illumise were the only ones left, and that's when I realized that the Psychic type deals neutral damage to Ghost type. I forgot of that. So while I did KO him in the end, she still had 3 other Pokemon, so the fight was lost. I could try again, but honestly, with my only way of doing neutral damage being both Surskit, a first form Bug type, and Dustox, a Pokemon with the same special attack stat as Surskit, I think I'm better off training them before trying again. As a side note, while training Surskit and Dustox, I noticed that I only got rematches from the trainer on the route that I was in. So I guess I just got unlucky before. And for next time, I'll have to just spend a lot of time on the same place as a trainer that I'm trying to get rematches from. I get both Dustox and Surskit to level 63, and the fight starts pretty similar, with Illumise using Anchor on Dusclops to get it locked into Protect. But this time, instead of going to Surskit, I go to Ninjas to get him to -6 defense with Screech. I had to switch in between to get rid of the confusion, but that gave me the chance to heal with Wish, so it worked out better for me in the end. I go into Volbeat, and thanks to using Curse the turn before, I was able to one-shot Dusclops with Signal Beam. Out comes the Ace Dusclops, and I go into Illumise again to see if I can lock him into Ice Beam, but no luck. So I decide to swap into Pinsir with a now half HP Illumise. I try to use Harden to bait the Ice Beam, and eventually it works. He does freeze Pinsir though, but honestly, he wasn't going to do much more. So I go back into Illumise to use Anchor. However, since I'm low in HP, I decide to prioritize healing with Moonlight, which does free the Dusclops from the Anchor. So I go back into Pinsir, but because he's frozen, the same strategy of Harden can't be used. Luckily, the Dusclops decide to finish off Pinsir with an Ice Beam, so by going into Illumise once more, I can lock him again. I still decide to use Moonlight to heal a bit before swapping, but now I can safely go into Dustox, and this fight took forever. Psybeam didn't do much damage, and his Rock Slides were doing a bit over a third, but thanks to Moonlight, I could just heal off the damage. Eventually, I got him to heal range, so I decided to go into Illumise to set up a wish to heal my Dustox that ran out of healing moves, but not before also getting her a bit more HP by using her last Moonlight. Dustox is out again, and I'm pretty sure he ran out of Rock Slides because he's now using Earthquake. In the end, Dustox does faint, but only after getting Dusclops to half HP. I sent Surskit, and I really hoped Bubble Beam was a 2-shot. It wasn't, but I think Dusclops also ran out of Shadow Balls, because he's using Earthquake even though Surskit resists that move. Thanks to that, I'm able to defeat Dusclops with Surskit having a bit over half HP. Her first Bannett is out, and I'm pretty sure it's the one with Thunderbolt. So I decide that the best course of action is to swap to Illumise and both set up a wish and get a safe switch into Ninjask. I get Ninjask onto the field and use Screech while Thunderbolt does massive damage. The wish does heal him, but I don't think it's enough to survive another one. I decide to risk it and swap to Surskit to get a safe switch to Volbeat. Not sure if the -2 defense is going to be enough, I send Volbeat, and thankfully, Signal Beam does half. Her Shadow Ball does a lot of damage back though, so before she faints, she leaves Volbeat with a fifth of HP. The second Bannett comes out, and I thought that I was going to lose, but that's when I remembered that Volbeat also has Moonlight. So as long as I outheal her Shadow Balls, I should be fine. The plan works, and she even uses Grudge on the turn that Volbeat got fully healed. So I safely swap into Ninjask and get all 3 Screeches before fainting to Shadow Ball. I send Volbeat back, and Signal Beam is a 1-shot. She sends Sableye, and we're both on our last Pokemon. But since she doesn't resist Signal Beam like the other Ghost types, 2 attacks finish this insane fight. No joke, I jumped out of my chair from how happy I was from winning this fight. It was so close, but honestly, what makes me happy the most is how everyone played a part. Even Pinsir, who had no way of attacking Ghost types or giving support to his teammates. Let's hope the next fights aren't as hard, because I've already spent enough time on this one battle. The third member of the Elite Four is Glacia, and it was extremely easy, but not because of Pinsir. What I did was that I locked the first Celio into Hell and then swapped to Ninjask. I then used Swords Dance 3 times and swept with Slash all the way to Walrein, who survived the hit and countered with Ice Beam, KOing Ninjask. I then sent Pinsir, and after taking an Ice Beam, a single Revenge was enough. Now, maybe I could have used Pinsir to sweep this fight, but with his only move being Revenge, the risk was too high. If he had literally any other fighting type attacking move, maybe I would have done it, but that was not the case here. Last of the Elite Four is Drake, and I tried this fight with many strategies, but none of them worked. The one that got the farthest was a really funny one though. So what I did is that I led with Dustox against Shelgon. Then I needed to use Whirlwind to make him go into Flygon. Anything else wasn't going to work. Then I swapped into Illumise to lock him into Earthquake, and then I went into Ninjask, hoping that the Anchor would last long enough for me to set up 3 Swords Dances. With that, I used Slash, but it wasn't enough to KO him. I did survive a Flamethrower, so I managed to knock him out eventually. However, Shelgon came out after that, also lived a Slash, and then defeated Ninjask. I then threw my entire team at Drake, hoping for a miracle to happen, but I only managed to KO his Shelgon and Altaria, getting defeated by his Salamence. Like I said, that was my best attempt, so what I'm going to do is use all 5 rare candies that I collected throughout the game on Ninjask and hope that it's going to be enough to at least defeat both Shelgon and Flygon. After many attempts of either not getting Flygon from Whirlwind or enough turns to set up Swords Dance, I finally get an attempt where everything lines up, and the result? It's enough to one-shot Flygon. Then I one-shot Shelgon, one-shot Altaria, but I'm pretty sure it was only because of a crit, and then when Salamence comes out, he leaves on a sliver. Not only that, but he fires back with a Rock Slide that defeats Ninjask. I'm not sure what to do, so I decide that I better stall him out of Rock Slides with my Moonlight Pokemon since I'm sure he's going to heal. I send Dustox and then I remember that he has a Citrus Berry and that got him out of healing range. So I just let Dustox faint and here comes a gamble. I send Pinsir and I have to hope that Salamence has less than 59 HP. If he does, Seismic Toss is going to KO him. If he doesn't, he's going to wipe my team. I go for the move and he outspeeds and goes for Rock Slide. It misses, and thankfully, Seismic Toss is enough. I was ready to celebrate, but then I was reminded that he still had a Kingdra. I wasn't that worried since I still had Pinsir and Volbeat, but he used Dragon Dance. I got into panic mode, but Pinsir was able to solve it with no problem. Finally, the champion fight against Wallace. For starters, I know that Wailord likes to lead with Rain Dance, so I start with Illumise using Anchor and then swap into Ninjask. Don't worry, I won't use the same strategy of Swords Dance. Instead, I start using Fury Cutter, a move that starts weak but doubles in power with each hit. Kind of like Rollout, but you decide when to stop. Unfortunately, the first one misses, which means that Ninjask was just shy of defeating Wailord. Because of that, he faints to a Blizzard. His efforts didn't go to waste though, as I sent Volbeat and one Signal Beam was enough to beat him. Second is Tentacruel and I swapped to Dustox and this fight was slow. I immediately set up a light screen and used Psybeam. However, it didn't do as much damage as I wanted to, and it took me a while to lower his HP. Eventually he healed, which meant that I had to do that whole process again. I did get lucky with him missing many of his Hydro Pumps, but I still had to heal a couple of times with Moonlight. In the end, Dustox won, but he was left with only one Moonlight power point left. Third was Whiscash, and honestly, I had no clue what to do about him. So I just threw Surskit, who wasn't going to do much. He managed to get 2 Bubble Beams, but they didn't do much since Whiscash got a boost from Amnesia and ended up defeating Surskit with Hyper Beam. I sent Pinsir, who thanks to the damage from Surskit and the turn-up recharge, managed to defeat Whiscash without much trouble. Fourth is Ludicolo, and I swapped to Volbeat since he has the strongest Bug-type move on my team. I managed to hit it once, but after missing because of a double team, I'm forced to heal for many turns to get out of KO range. In the end, Volbeat won, but like Dustox, he was left with only one power point of Moonlight. Second to last is Gyarados, and like with Whiscash, I have no clue what to do about him. So I sent Illumise to maybe try and heal a team member, but he uses Hyper Beam to do a lot of damage. I decide to take this as a chance and use Anchor on the move and set up a wish to go into Pinsir. And it works really well, as with Seismic Toss, I'm able to defeat him without even losing that much HP. Last on Wallace's team is his Ace Milotic. Since I know it only has Toxic and special attacking moves as means to deal damage, I decide to swap into Dustox, and this is just dumb. Not only does Dustox do extremely low damage, but when I was close to getting him to half, he uses Recover. I try to do as much as I can, but with only one power point left on Moonlight and him using Recover, there's only so much he can do before fainting. I send Volbeat, and the plan is just to spam Signal Beam and hopefully crit. Ideally while he's low on HP so that his ability Swarm can be activated, which boosts the damage of his Bug-type moves. I don't get the crit, but I do activate his Berry and get him into the red before losing Volbeat. That last one is actually bad news, because when I send my last Pokemon Pinsir, he heals with a full restore while I did some damage with Seismic Toss. He fully heals with Recover, and Revenge isn't doing that much either. I could be in trouble. I decide to risk it and go for Revenge again, and he Surf leaves Pinsir with only 6 HP, while Revenge does massive damage. I've been risking it this whole fight, so I make one last gamble and go for Seismic Toss. And it's enough to defeat Wallace on my first attempt. That was a really fun challenge. Not only did I have to use Pokemon that I don't normally use, but also moves that I've never used, like Screech, Wish, or Anchor. However, the challenge is not over yet. There's still the real champion, Steven. Unfortunately for me, this is a fight that I'm going to be doing using only 5 Pokemon, since I need 1 Pokemon to use both Surf and Waterfall to get to Steven. And in the end, I decided to leave Dustox. Yeah, he was great with Light Screen, but with most of the opponents having Rock-type moves, I don't think it's going to be that useful. So he was the one being left out. I level up everyone to level 78 and give the fight a try. Now, this battle needed a lot of luck, so let me walk you through it. First is Skarmory, and I lead with Pinsir. Because he's so bulky, I need to use Seismic Toss to KO him. However, this fight won't work unless he doesn't poison me with Toxic or hits me with Aerial Ace twice. After that, he sends Claydol and I swap to Illumise. I need him to use Reflect here so that I can lock him into it with Anchor. Then, I go into Ninjask and set up a single Swords Dance. With this, I start spamming Fury Cutter, a move which has 95 accuracy. If in the middle of it he manages to free himself, it doesn't matter, since Ninjask survives an Ancient Power. He needs to be defeated the next turn though. In this attempt, he doesn't, but he needed to heal, so it worked out in the end. Third is Greedily, and he's the sole reason that Ninjask needed to set up a Swords Dance, since without it, he survives and hits back with Ancient Power, and it's over if he does that. After that, Armaldo is a one-shot as well. He gave me a lot of trouble if Greedily didn't faint in one hit, since while I can defeat him with my other team members, Armaldo is really strong and wipes the rest of my team. 50 Aggron, and this is where the sweep ends, since even with all the boosts that Ninjask had, he doesn't even get Aggron to half HP. Obviously, this is where Ninjask faints, but what's important is that Aggron needs to do it with Dragon Claw, maybe his weakest move against my Pokemon. This has a random chance of happening if I get hit by Claydol's Ancient Power. I then go into Illumise and use Anchor, but also set up a wish so that I can go into Pinsir and make him healthy enough for later. After that, it takes a single revenge to KO Aggron. Last on Steven's team is Metagross, and this is the only time that I've gotten here. I swap into Illumise to try and get a safe switch into Surskit. This is only so that I can do as much damage as possible with Bubble Beam. It's honestly not much, but I'll take what I can. I go into Volbeat, but only manage to land a single Signal Beam that gets him to half before fainting to one Meteor Mash. Pinsir is my last Pokemon, and at this point, I click Seismic Toss without any hope of winning. It gets him to the red, but it's also going to activate his Citrus Berry. He goes for Meteor Mash, and it misses. Like I predicted, he does eat his berry, so I'm not sure if Seismic Toss is going to be enough. But it's not like I have anything better, so I go for it, and it's enough. Winning the last fight of the game using both the Pokemon and Movesets that the bug catchers use, even using level caps for some of the fights. I hope I got across the point of how lucky I needed to be, because I knew it was somewhat possible, but it took so long. Anyways, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.